Alex Jones is, of course, the host of the Alex Jones Show. It's all across the country in different radio stations. He's also featured at Infowars.com. And you might remember him as the guy who was ranting and raving with Piers Morgan about gun control, talking about metal sharks, chimpanzees, etc. Well, I talked to him earlier today. We had that conversation. I also asked him about Jon Stewart. I also asked him, what is the global conspiracy that rules all other conspiracies? But first, man, when I asked him if he was part of the conspiracy, because that is what Glenn Beck is charging, that he's put out there to make gun rights people look crazy, well, he got a little upset about that. Not at my question, but at Glenn Beck. Let's watch that part of the interview and the rest.
Why would Piers Morgan have this guy on? Well, because Piers is trying to have gun control, and he's trying to make anybody who believes in guns and believes in the Second Amendment as not something about sports, but to be able to be a deterrent to an out-of-control government, look like a madman.
I'm just going to let you flat out respond to that.
Glenn Beck, for years, has done all sorts of stuff to me behind the scenes, and I'm sick of him. I mean, the guy makes me sick. I don't sit there and spend all day attacking other media personalities. I mean, I've had a few run-ins with you, a few with Beck, but you haven't done stuff behind the scenes. I mean, I show up at Fox for an interview, and they go, Glenn Beck's throwing a fit, you can't come on. I mean, he does stuff to me. He said Ron Paul supporters needed the army to come after him, and that the money bomb was a plan to blow up the government. That's how dumb he thinks his audience is. And I don't sit here and attack Rush Limbaugh. I don't attack Michael Savage. So I'm not going after Beck because I'm in competition against him. Glenn Beck is despicable. Piers Morgan had me on because they wanted to pre-do the interview to say I was wrong to violate his First Amendment. And that's what it was all about, was how dare you try to take my free speech rights when I was just simply trying to point out a foreigner shouldn't be here lecturing us. Nobody else would put up with this. It was all tongue-in-cheek. I told them that. And I actually sat there when I went out there before we went live. I saw his cue cards. It was all about that. It was not about we have a right to own guns to protect ourselves from the government. I brought that up. Glenn Beck has tried to hold me back while I talk to people that have worked with him. He has 5 guys watching everything I do, taking my news articles. Listen, 4 or 5 years ago, he wouldn't talk about any of this stuff. Now he takes it but spins it in a neocon way, and I'm sick of Glenn Beck. I'm sick and tired of him. He's a punk. He called me a fascist. This is a guy who made jokes about torture and said it was a great thing. This is a guy that supports drones. This is a guy that supports the Patriot Act. I was against all that when Bush was pushing it, okay? I'm a constitutional libertarian who loves freedom, and my views are my own. And that little piece of trash needs to know this. He tries to play this collectivist game of, oh, he doesn't speak for us. He's trying to speak for us. Hey, you jackass mainline conservatives don't speak for me. You're the ones that have discredited true conservatism and libertarianism. Thomas Jefferson would spit on you, you little bastard, you little piece of trash. That's what I got to say to Glenn Beck. I'm sick of him. And by the way, you haven't held me back, punk. You're not stopping my signal going out. And I saw that 15-minute clip where he attacked me. They look scared because they're a bunch of Nelly punks who can't stand the fact that I'm the one that's turning the ship around. I'm the one that's got all the conservative hosts aping my information and my talking points because I'm original and I've done the real research. Okay? I'm leading the pack, and all these fake jackass conservatives know it. They know it, and they can't stand it.
Alex, you know, sometimes we get revved up. I get revved up sometimes, but you do it quite often. I mean, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but have you ever sought mental health treatment? Is that?
Yeah, you know what? America needs mental health treatment if they don't have a pulse. We're going into tyranny. We're giving $85 billion a month to foreign banks to bail out their fake derivatives that have infected our entire Social Security system. I'm angry about that, man. Listen, it was anger that founded this country. I'm the nicest guy with my children. I'm the nicest guy changing an old lady's tires. But I start thinking about the BS of somebody calling me a fascist because I got a pulse. Paul Revere rode through the night screaming, to arms. The redcoats are coming. The British are coming. He said, get ready to kill people. George Washington signed death warrants on people and ordered people sniped. I'm not calling for that. The average American is the one that has the problem, who hears somebody red-blooded who has energy and who is angry. I'm in this to win it. I'm risking my life. I live in the real world. I've got a big heart pumping red blood through my veins. And I'm angry. And I'm focused. And listen, Governor Cuomo wants the guns. He yells and screams, and they all rally. They tell us not to get angry because they know that's where the victory is. They know that's where the success is. They know that's where the energy is. Okay? So I'm here to rally the Republic to awaken. Okay? I'm somebody that works 18 hours a day. I'm somebody who reads philosophy. I'm somebody who has awakened my mind. I'm somebody who's built my own media empire from nothing. And that's the American dream. That's what people should aspire to. And if it's mental illness to love liberty and to be angry, well, then I am. If I teleported back to the Aztecs 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, and they were chopping kids' hearts out every morning, and I walked over and said, this is crazy. The sun will come back up. You don't have to sacrifice 50 kids. They'd say, man, you're crazy. You're loco. Well, you know what? I'll tell the Aztecs they're loco. I'll tell Hitler he's loco. I'll tell Lenin he's loco. I'll tell all these tyrants they're loco. And I'll tell people that, hey, don't like me getting angry? What Patrick Henry said, crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you. May your chains set lightly upon you, because I'll say what Colonel Travis said at the Alamo, victory or death. That's extremism, isn't it? Knowing a force of 10,000 people was coming, and he had 180. That's right. That's what this is. It's commitment. It's really living. It's loving innocence and the children enough to be willing to be a real man. That's what it's all about.
All right. I think the message is loud and clear, although I'm pretty sure the Aztecs didn't speak Spanish. But nonetheless, I get your point. Alex Jones show.
They spoke Mayan. The point is, it's a joke.
I know. We're not done with Alex yet. By the way, I was counting on Glenn Beck. He called him punk, trash, jackass. Went back to Nelly punk, bastard. And by the way, if you hadn't noticed, he's sick of him. Hey, well, what does he have to say about Piers Morgan and Jon Stewart? Come back and find out.
I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Alex.
Suicide pills. I can speak in this accent as well.
Do you get why people think you're a little touched? Alex Jones is probably now best known for his fascinating interview on Piers Morgan on gun control, but many people know him through the Alex Jones Show and Infowars.com, which is very successful online. He's got a channel on YouTube, I should say, also successful with hundreds of millions of views. So his message is certainly resonating with some. Now, I asked him about what is this global conspiracy that he often talks about? What's at the heart of it? We talked about that. We also talked about Jon Stewart and Piers Morgan. So let's watch more.
We're becoming an authoritarian country. We're losing our liberties. The NDAA, the warrantless wiretapping, the GMO, all of it. We're entering a dystopic nightmare, and I yell and scream to try to get people out of their trance. That's why I do that on purpose, is to get people out of the trance they're under.
Now, Alex, when you are concerned about government and its reach into our private lives and a violation of our rights like the NDAA, et cetera, I'm just as concerned. So, I hear you on that completely. But when you start talking about this global conspiracy, you obviously lose me, right? And it doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong, but I think to a lot of people it's going to seem a little unbelievable. So flesh it out for me, including to me, honestly. It seems unbelievable to me. So who is it that wants to do this dystopia? Who are these puppet masters or whoever they are? And how many of them are there? And why do they want to kill us? I don't get that part.
Well, the time I interviewed him, he was the head of the Kissinger group, Rothkopf. He wrote Superclass about 5 years ago. You should interview him. And he said he came on my show to try to convince me global government's the way to go. He said there's 6,000 super gophers that run the whole planet, but there's less than 20 families that own it, and that they're busy mopping up the final countries that were sovereign, and that they're bringing in world government. I mean, there are thousands of articles in the Times of London, Newsweek, Time Magazine, announcing global government run by technocrats, and it's a scientific dictatorship. And if they're successful with their New World Order, people are going to wish later they would have listened and stopped this. These are 170 IQ, top scientists hired by the old robber baron families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all of them, on record, those old names.
I want to ask you a question about how you're perceived when you say that. but I want to do it in conjunction with your appearance on the Piers Morgan Show. Now, this is an edited version. We took some of the highlights of what you said. I just want the audience to know that. I'm going to show it to you, and I want to get your reaction. Here, let's watch.
Why do you want to deport me?
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. The Republic will rise again. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic. Do you understand? To ask me some little factoid. How many great white sharks
How many
kill people every year, but they're scared to swim? How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? There's no metal shark in the water. Have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Alex.
Suicide pills. I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
Mass murder pills.
Okay.
Now, Alex, I know it's unfair to edit it together, but you did say all those things. And, you know, I enjoyed the English accent. But when you say the U.S. government is preparing people by working with Hollywood in a conspiracy to pretend we're zombies and mow us down, and then you do that on CNN, do you get why people think you're a little touched?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you again. The Army and Marine Corps do drills where hundreds of role players dressed up in Dallas Cowboy jerseys and John Deere hats come towards them and they shoot them. Meanwhile, just 2 years ago, the real training manuals were to mow down citizens, and these are declassified. And so they said, look, we'll just call it zombies and say it's a joke. They're practicing in real drills, not a joke, to mow down citizens, and you always dehumanize someone, the Jews, others, before you kill them. You say they're not human. They're saying, oh, we're practicing to mow down people in U.S. cities, but they're not citizens. They're zombies. It's a cover for the training. But let's go back. All those things you edited it out, 15 minutes on air or whatever. I said all that on purpose. I said all that to get people out of their trance so they would hear the brutal truth. Let me expand on this. When Jaws came out in the 1970s, on average, I looked it up, there were 5 great white shark killings, deaths a year, from Australia to the west coast of the United States, worldwide, South Africa, all of it included. On average, it's 5. So that movie made people not go swimming worldwide and killed about half the business for 2 years. And some actuaries show have cut back people going to the beach upwards of 10% 30 plus years later. It's the same thing with the guns. Statistically, to be killed by a semi-auto firearm in a school is incredibly rare. 88 people a year in mass shootings total, less than 30 of those in school shootings. It's still terrible, a tragedy, but they take it and they project it. But when Obama kills little kids with a drone, it's just collateral damage. There's no fake crying. So that was my point about there's no metal shark out there.
So I get that. I get that. And I think the drone program is hideous, and we talk about it on the show all the time. But, Jon Stewart, I think, made a fair point here. He was discussing what you said, because you're talking about here imaginary problems like the shark problem, et cetera. Let me play you the Jon Stewart clip and get you to respond.
So this is what it is. Their paranoid fear of a possible dystopic future prevents us from addressing our actual dystopic present. We can't even begin to address 30,000 gun deaths that are actually, in reality, happening in this country every year, because a few of us must remain vigilant against the rise of imaginary Hitler.
So you're worried about the imaginary sharks, and I think he makes a good point. You're worried about the zombies and I don't want to say it in a dismissive way, but you're worried about the government taking over when they haven't. And when we've got real deaths, we've got over 11,000 gun homicides in this country. So isn't that a fair point, Alex?
No, it's not a fair point. They've taken the guns worldwide. In Chicago and New York, when they took the guns, crime rates went up. And so the issue is humans at a primitive level, myself included. I recognize that from the Roman times 2,000 years ago to 1868, when the South passed laws against blacks owning guns, the first gun laws in this country since the founding of the nation, that it was done to disarm a group that people were used to oppressing. And the government's got drones in our skies, weapons, checkpoints, 1.6 billion bullets. It's a balance of power that we need the people armed, and that's why the Second Amendment was put in place there. It's not for duck hunting.
Our disagreement, Alex, is that I think you take a kernel of truth, which is that Goldman Sachs has far too much power, and not in just in the European governments, but here as well. And it's because of the way that we have set up the system. And I think you're just taking it to a huge jump forward and then saying it's part of a conspiracy that Hollywood's in on, the government's in on, and they were met in a smoke-filled room and 20 guys decided it. I think it's the structure of corporations and the structure of government that's leading to the problems.
Let me just say this, please, for God's sakes, let me say this to your audience.
Okay.
I told people 7 years ago, because of a Google press release, that they had the patents and were using the cameras on your computers and the systems in your cell phone to have computers listen to you to build psychological algorithms. That was mainstream news 2 months ago. And people are like, so what if schools are watching kids at home with laptops? I mean, I was crazy 15 years ago to tell people they were taking babies' blood at birth to put it in a DNA Pentagon database that was declassified 3 years ago. Okay, look how much we've put up with, man. Look how far it's gone.
But Alex, they also take the blood to make sure that if you have disease later, that you could help the baby. It's not everything's a conspiracy.
No. That the cover story was that, oh, we send it away to the health department, and the cover was that the hospital could have done it right there. I know that's the cover. It's come out. They put it in the database. They always have multifaceted reasons. Listen, you're gonna wish. Don't you have kids?
Yeah, I do.
Listen, deep down, you know we're going into a tyranny. Deep down, you know we're in trouble. And if we don't recognize how tyranny works, is you kind of go downhill slow for a while, and then it drops. Okay, we're hitting the drop-off point, and I'm telling you, I believe everything I'm saying. I've got the research to back it up, and I wish every day that I was wrong or that I was exaggerating to myself. 9 times out of 10 when I do research, it's worse than I said.
Look, it's a fascinating discussion we had, and I think we were respectful towards one another. We got each other's points out. You can watch the whole thing on current.com/theyoungturks. And so obviously for the purposes of TV, we took it in 2 different parts, but there's actually more to the interview, and you can watch it in its entirety, again, at current.com/theyoungturks. I think, in my opinion, as I was saying there, Alex takes some legitimate points. The National Defense Authorization Act is unconstitutional. It does take away some of our citizens' rights to get a fair trial. But it doesn't mean that it was 20 guys, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, etc., that had a secret plan all along to do that so it can lead to the worldwide conspiracy. And they worked with Hollywood to get the zombies into the movies so that they can shoot us because we'll look like zombies and it dehumanizes us. We've got real problems with our government. We got real problems with the strength of corporations in this country taking over our democracy. I'm afraid that when Alex goes on these rants, it leads people to dismiss the legitimate points that he is making about the actual constitutional issues. But you can judge for yourself. Go on and watch the whole interview. And he did interestingly admit there that his effort at getting Piers Morgan sent out of the country was tongue-in-cheek, and that he was doing it on purpose and also being loud on purpose, which is interesting as well. Now, when we come back, we're going to have a conversation, a real conversation, about the drone program in this country and how we're using it abroad. And it is devastating.
What we have documented is that drones kill not only terrorists, they kill many others, they kill civilians, they have killed women and children.